The last two things that we're going to talk about in section 5.1 are unusual events and complements. When we're asked whether we have something that is unusual, right, meaning it's not likely to occur at all, the cutoff point that we use is a probability less than 0.05, because that would mean there's less than a 5% chance, which says this is very unlikely and thus it is unusual for it to occur. So if I'm asked whether something is unusual, what I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate its probability and see if it falls within that range. All right, so the probability that a student is a math major for this group, we've got 150 math majors. This one does give me the total of 5,000. And that gives me a probability of 0.03. Because this is less than 0.05, I would say yes, this is unusual, because the chance that it will occur is less than 5%. If I calculate a probability and I get something above 0.05, anything above 0.05, then I would say this is not considered to be an unusual event. All right, complements basically look at the opposite of an event. All right, so the complement of an event occurs when the event itself does not occur, and that not is typically the key word that you see when you're dealing with a complement. And the big thing that we want to note here, and that we're going to be using both in this section and later on, is what you see here as the rule of complements. All right, when you have a complement that you want to look at, and the notation is typically the event with a C up in the top corner, you can find the probability of that complement, which is that the event does not happen, by taking 1 minus the probability that it does. Okay, so let's look at our example here. We're going right back to the birth weights, all right? And what I want you to remember is that we already calculated the probability of a low birth weight at 0.0827. All right, so because I've already got that, I'm going to go ahead and pull that over here. That is the probability that we do get a baby with low birth weight. This is asking me to look at the probability that the baby is not low birth weight. Now, could I take the number that are not low birth weight and divide by the total? Yes, and I would get the same thing. But my other option here, since I've already done this for low birth weight, would be to say, if I want to look at the complement, which is not low birth rate, I can just take the probability of that event and I can subtract it from 1. And that would give me a probability of 0.9173 that the baby selected is not low birth rate. So anytime you have an event that you're asked to look at and you see that not in front of it, this is an option that you have, all right? Like, for example, if I wanted to know the probability that when I roll a die, I get something that's not a 2. I could say, well, let me think about getting a 2, which would be 1 outcome out of 6. And then to do the complement, just subtract that from 1. So right now, just something to be mindful of when you see that not, right? Think about if you were to work the problem that way. And then this is something that we'll come back to and we'll talk a lot more about in some of our future chapters.